The night had fallen heavy over the little town of Akinwale, a place caught between the fast-moving rhythms of the city and the slow, stubborn heartbeat of the village. The dusty streets were mostly quiet except for the scattered laughter of young men drinking burukada by the roadside and the occasional honk of a worn-out taxi squeezing through narrow alleys. Amaka pulled her thin scarf tighter around her shoulders. The air was cool, yet her body burned with exhaustion. She had been walking since afternoon, barefoot, with the hem of her skirt torn and dusty. Her stomach groaned from hunger, but hunger was something she had become used to over the past week. What she hadn't gotten used to was the endless uncertainty. Where would she sleep tonight? How long could she keep herself safe before someone noticed her desperation and took advantage of it? She was only 21, but life had already treated her as though she were 50. Her mother had died of malaria in the village when she was 16, and her father, a man known for his pride, had wasted away from too much palm wine and debts he could not repay. By 18, she was completely alone. She tried staying with an aunt in the city, but the woman's husband eyed her too often, and when she resisted his touches, the aunt threw her out, accusing her of disrespect and ingratitude. So here she was, another nameless girl wandering the streets of a Kinwale town, clutching her dignity as if it were the last coin in her pocket. As she passed through the market square, most of the shops were already locked up for the night. Only a few traders remained, folding up their mats and gathering their goods. But at the far end of the row stood a wooden shop, small but well-kept, its signboard painted in bold white letters. Obina Electronics, radios, fans, chargers, repairs. The shop was shut, but unlike the others, its veranda was wide and clean. A mat leaned against the wall, and Amaka could see that the spot was sheltered enough to protect her from the night's dew. She hesitated, heart pounding. If the owner found her sleeping there, he might beat her or chase her away. Yet she had no other option. She sank down quietly, arranging her wrapper around her body, and lay her head against a wooden step. The faint hum of generators in the distance mixed with the chirping of crickets. For the first time in days, her eyelids felt heavy with the promise of real sleep. What she didn't know was that Obina, the owner of the shop, was still inside. Obina was 32, unmarried, and known in the community as a hard-working man who kept himself. His parents had died years ago, leaving him with nothing but the small electronic stall his father once used. Through sweat and sheer stubbornness, he had expanded it into one of the most reliable electronics businesses in the town. That night, he had been doing inventory, counting boxes of chargers and fixing a transistor radio. Around midnight, he heard something unusual, a soft rustling outside. Cautiously, he blew out his lantern and peered through the cracks of the wooden door. There she was, a girl, curled up like a child, fast asleep on his veranda. Her clothes were ragged, her hair untidy, but her face carried a softness that struck him. He thought of waking her, telling her to leave, but something held him back. Instead, he stood there for a while, watching. Her breathing was slow, her chest rising and falling. She looked peaceful, yet the weariness of suffering clung to her like dust on skin. By dawn, Obina stepped outside. The first cockcrow had already pierced the air, and traders were beginning to arrive. The girl stirred, startled, and sat up quickly, her eyes wide with fear. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Please, I just needed somewhere to rest." "I'll go." Obina studied her for a moment. "What's your name?" "Amaka," she said softly, hugging herself. "Where are you from?" "From Yumidak village. But I don't have anyone there anymore." Obina nodded slowly. He could see the truth in her eyes that had seen too much. "Get up," he said finally. "Come and wash your face. You can't be sitting here like this when customers arrive." She looked at him in shock, expecting him to shout or threaten her. Instead, he brought out a small plastic bowl, filled it with water from a jerrycan, and handed her a towel. That was the first kindness Amaka had felt in months. By midday, she was still hanging around his shop, helping sweep the front and arranging boxes. She did it without being told, quietly, as if trying to prove her worth. Obina didn't stop her. Something in him felt lighter, watching her work silently beside him. The town's gossiping tongues did not take long. By the third day, women passing by whispered to each other, "Have you seen that girl at Obina's shop?" Who is she? A new wife. Wife? He never said anything about marriage. Maybe she's just a street girl he picked up. Such talk traveled fast, but Obinna ignored it. He had seen the bruises of hardship on Amaka's spirit, and his heart, though cautious, leaned toward compassion. One evening, after closing the shop, he asked, "Amaka, where you sleep now?" She looked down. "Sometimes here. Sometimes under the mango tree near the bus park." He frowned. "That's dangerous. Too many bad men roam at night." Her lips trembled. "I don't have a choice." That was the moment he made a decision that would change both their lives. "You'll sleep inside. On the mat. At least until you figure out what to do." Tears filled her eyes, but she wiped them quickly, not wanting him to see. "Thank you," she whispered. It was not love yet, just survival. Trust slowly budding in the cracks of despair. Days turned into weeks. Amaka proved herself diligent. She learned to sell small items to customers, kept the shop tidy, and even started cooking simple meals for Obinna when he was too busy. Slowly, his neighbors began to notice that she wasn't just some vagrant hanging around. She was part of his life now. But life in Kinwale was never without challenges. One afternoon, a group of young men loitered near the shop, their voices loud with mockery. "Obinna, so this is your new wife?" One sneered. "A girl you picked from the street? Ah, you have no shame." Amaka's cheeks burned. She wanted to disappear into the ground. Obinna's jaw tightened. "Mind your business," he said sharply. "She's with me, and that's all you need to know." The men laughed and walked away, but their words lingered in the air like smoke. That night, Amaka cried quietly, ashamed of being seen as worthless. Obinna sat beside her. "Don't mind them. People will always talk. What matters is what you do with your life." She looked at him then, truly looked at him. Not just as a man who gave her shelter, but as someone who believed in her worth when the world spat on it. It was in that silence, in the space between despair and hope, that something deeper began to grow. The sun over Kinwale town was merciless that season. It baked the red earth until dust rose in clouds with every passing car, clinging to skin, hair, and clothes. The harmattan wind, though dry, gave no relief. In the heart of the market, Obinna's electronic shop had become a small sanctuary for those looking for affordable repairs, radios, or even just shade. And by his side now, always, was Amaka. In the beginning, customers had looked at her with suspicion. Some muttered under their breath, "She is just a stray," while others avoided her completely. But Amaka had a warmth that could not be ignored. She greeted every buyer with respect, learned quickly how to explain the difference between imported and local phone chargers, and smiled in a way that disarmed even the most skeptical shopper. One day, Mama Ifioma, a plum trader who sold vegetables across the street, stopped by. "Amaka, a bag. Help me check if this radio still works. My son has been begging me for one." Amaka tested it carefully, her hand steady, her voice calm. When the radio crackled to life, Mama Ifioma smiled wide. You know this business well." "Obinna, you have found yourself a good helper, oh." Obinna only nodded, but inside, something stirred. Amaka was no longer just a girl who had stumbled into his shop. She was becoming part of its soul. Yet, while the shop thrived, outside eyes kept watching. Kinwale was not a big town. Everyone's business became gossip within hours. Some people admired Obinna's kindness. Others whispered that he had been bewitched by beauty. One evening, as the market slowed down and the vendors packed up, Obinna and Amaka sat outside, sharing roasted corn. The sky blushed purple with sunset. Amaka chewed slowly, then said in a low voice, "Do you ever regret letting me stay?" Obinna turned to her, surprised. "Why do you ask that?" "I hear what people say, that I'm nothing, that you deserve better." Her eyes glistened, but she held them steady. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm only a burden." Obinna studied her face, her worn but determined features. "Amaka, when I first saw you sleeping outside my shop, I knew you had been through too much. And I knew something else. You are not worthless. People talk because they don't know your story. Let them. As long as you know who you are, that's what matters." Her throat tightened, but she smiled faintly. "Thank you. I never had anyone tell me that before. It was not a confession of love yet, but it was the planning of something that neither of them could ignore. Weeks turned into months. Obina began to teach Amaka the technical parts of his trade. How to solder a wire, how to tell a fake battery from a real one. She was eager to learn, and her curiosity impressed him. Soon, she could fix small repairs herself, and customers began to trust her. But trouble was never far. One afternoon, a man came into the shop. He was tall, with a sharp jawline, and a flashy wristwatch that glistened even in the dim light. His name was Chaik, one of Obina's old acquaintances who had a reputation for arrogance. He looked at Amaka with a smirk. So this is the girl everyone is talking about? The one Obina picked from the gutter. Amaka froze, her hands gripping the edge of the counter. Obina's face hardened. Chaik, leave her out of your mouth. Obina said firmly, but Chaik only laughed. You're wasting yourself, my friend. A successful man like you, and this is who you choose? Do you know how many fine ladies would line up for you if you wanted? Obina's voice was low but steady. She is not your concern. The tension was thick, but Amaka kept quiet. After Chaik left, she whispered, maybe he's right. Maybe I don't deserve. Enough? Obina cut her off gently. Don't let people define you. If I didn't believe in you, you wouldn't be here. For the first time since her mother's death, Amaka felt the stirrings of something she had thought lost forever. Hope. Life began to change for her in small but meaningful ways. She started attending women's meetings with Mama Ifioma, where she learned more about the community. She joined in Saturday sanitation days, sweeping the roads with other traders. Slowly, the townspeople softened toward her. They saw she was not just a girl clinging to Obina's pity. She was building a life. But with progress came more whispers. Some of the young women in town, especially those who had long admired Obina, began to despise her. That girl is too lucky, one said bitterly. She has taken what should have been ours. Others accused her of using charms. No ordinary girl can capture a man like Obina so quickly, they muttered. Amaka heard these things, but she buried the pain in silence. She had learned long ago that survival often meant ignoring the sting of words. Then came the day that shifted everything. It was a Sunday morning, and the town was alive with the sound of church bells. Amaka dressed in her best wrapper. A faded blue cloth Obina had bought her from the market and followed him to church. Heads turned as they entered together. Some faces smiled warmly, but others carried disapproval. During the service, the pastor spoke about kindness and how God lifts the brokenhearted. Amaka sat with her hands clasped, tears threatening to spill as though the sermon was meant for her alone. Afterward, as they walked home, Obina stopped suddenly. Amaka, he said, I want you to know something. I don't care what people say. You are not just someone I'm helping. You are part of my life now. Her breath caught. Part of your life? Yes. His voice was quiet but firm. And I don't mean just a shop. I mean me. I want you to stay, not as a guest, not as a helper, but as my woman. Her heart raced. The streets around them seemed to blur into nothing. But you don't even know all of me. My past, my pain. I don't need to know every detail, he interrupted softly. I know your heart, and that's enough. For the first time in years, Amaka allowed herself to cry freely. Tears slid down her cheeks, but they were not only from sadness. They were from relief, from a feeling of finally being seen, of being chosen. From that day, everything changed. They were not married yet, but the bond between them was clear. He introduced her proudly as a woman by his side. She cooked, cleaned, worked, and dreamed with him. Slowly, she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was worthy of love. But fate has a way of testing happiness. One evening, while Obina was away at the wholesalers in the city, Amaka stayed behind to mind the shop. As the sun dipped low, a group of women passed by, their laughter sharp. So this is where she hides, one mocked loudly, living as if she belongs. But we know the truth. Another added, let her enjoy now. Time will tell if Obina's eyes will open. Amaka's chest tightened, but she refused to respond. She had learned that silence was stronger than anger. Later that night, when Obina returned, she told him everything. He looked at her long and hard, then said, Amaka, if people want to drag you down, it's because they see your light. Don't dim it for them. She nodded, but in her heart, she knew the road ahead would not be smooth. Love was growing, yes, but so was envy. And envy in a small town like Akinwale could be as dangerous as hunger. Still, as she lay down to sleep on the mat inside the shop, she whispered to herself, God, if this is a dream, don't let me wake up yet. Because for the first time in her life, she had something she had never dared to hope for, belonging. The rains had come to Akinwale. Heavy clouds rolled across the skies, and every afternoon, the town was drenched in downpour. Children splashed in puddles. Women hurried with baskets balanced on their heads, and the market stalls smelled of damp earth and roasted maize. Inside Obina's shop, the sound of rain beating on the zinc roof blended with the soft crackle of a radio. For Amaka, these days were bittersweet. Her bond with Obina was stronger than ever, yet the whispers around town had grown darker. A girl once ignored now found herself at the center of envy. Some could not believe her luck. Others simply hated her presence. One morning, as she swept the shop, Mama Ebra, a woman known for her sharp tongue, stopped by. Her wrapper was tied tightly across her chest, her lips twisted in disdain. So, Amaka, she said, folding her arms, you really think you've arrived, eh? Sleeping in this shop until Obina foolishly made you his woman. Do you know how many decent girls prayed for his attention? Amaka froze, broom in hand. Her heart raced, but she forced her voice to stay calm. Mama, I did not plan my life this way. God chose my path. I did not steal Obina from anyone. The woman scoffed loudly. God? Don't deceive yourself. We all know girls like you. Today you smile and act humble. Tomorrow you will destroy him. Her words cut deep, but Amaka swallowed her pain. She had learned that replying too much only fed gossip. Still, when Obina returned that evening, she told him. He frowned. Let them talk. They will get tired. But the truth was, he too had begun to feel the weight of society's eyes. He had always been a man who kept to himself, working hard, minding his business. Now, because of Amaka, everyone seemed to watch him closely. It all came to a head one evening at a town meeting. Obina had been invited, as he was one of the respected young businessmen of Akinwale. The men sat in a circle under the old Irako tree, discussing road repairs and market levies. Then Chief Adigun, a stout man with authority in his voice, turned to him. Obina, he said, we respect your hard work. You have built yourself from nothing. But tell us, is it true you are wasting yourself with that street girl? Is that the woman who will bear your children? A murmur spread among the men. Obina felt their eyes on him, waiting for him to flinch, to apologize, to admit shame. But instead, he lifted his chin. Yes, Chief, that is the woman by my side. And I am not ashamed. She is diligent, honest, and loyal. Many of you have wives who gossip and tear you down, but Amaka builds me up. Is that not what a man should value? The silence that followed was heavy. Some men nodded reluctantly, while others shook their heads. Chief Adigan only grunted, We shall see. When Obina returned home that night, Amaka was waiting. She had feared the meeting would humiliate him. Instead, when he told her what he said, she broke down in tears. Why do you defend me so much? She asked, her voice trembling. Because you are worth defending, he replied simply. It was then that love, pure and undeniable, fully bloomed between them. Yet love, as sweet as palm wine, often attracts bitterness. A few weeks later, Chaik returned. The man had been watching from the shadows, jealous of how Amaka had transformed Obina's life. His own business ventures had failed, and he could not stand to see his former friend thriving, not with a woman he considered beneath them all. He cornered Amaka one afternoon when Obina had gone to buy stock. Listen, girl, he said, his tone dripping with menace. You think you've won? That because Obina shelters you, you're now queen of the town? Let me tell you, this will not last. He will soon see your true color, and when he throws you back into the street, don't come crying. Amaka's hands trembled, but she stood firm. Chaik, whatever you feel for me or against me, keep it. I did not beg for your attention. Leave me alone. His eyes narrowed. You dare talk to me like that? He leaned closer, his breath sour. Remember my words. I will not let you enjoy in peace. When Obina returned, he found Amaka shaken. She told him everything. Rage flared in him. If Chaik ever comes near you again, I will deal with him, he swore. But Chaik was not a man to back down. He began spreading rumors. He told people Amaka was once a prostitute in the city, that she used charms to trap Obina. His words spread like wildfire. Some believed, others didn't, but the seed of doubt had been planted. One night, Obina came home to find Amaka sitting silently, tears on her cheeks. "What is it?" he asked gently. She whispered, "Do you regret choosing me?" His chest tightened. "Never. Not for 1 second. Amaka, I see you. I know who you are. No rumor can change that." But the battle was only beginning. As months passed, Obina's business grew. With Amaka's help, he expanded into selling bigger electronics, televisions, fans, even generators. They saved money, planned for the future. Yet the more they prospered, the more resentment grew around them. Some women in the market spat insults as Amaka walked past. Some men laughed behind Obina's back, mocking his charity wife. Even family weighed in. One day, Obina's uncle, a stern old man, came to visit. Sitting in the shop, he spoke bluntly. "Obina, I hear you are serious with this girl. Is that true?" "Yes, uncle," Obina said. The old man shook his head. "You shame us. A man of your standing should marry from a good family, one with respect. How can you tie your future to a girl without roots? What will people say when your children ask about her background?" Obina's jaw tightened. "Uncle, with all due respect, I will marry for love, not for gossip. Amaka may not have wealth or family name, but she has character. That is more than many so-called good families can boast." The uncle left in anger, muttering curses. That night, Amaka wept. "Obina, maybe your uncle is right. Maybe you should find someone better." But he pulled her close. "Amaka, listen to me. You are my choice. My only choice. If the whole town stands against you, I will still stand with you." Her tears soaked his shirt, but in her heart, a seed of doubt remained. For she knew envy does not rest until it destroys or is silenced. The real storm came months later, when Obina proposed marriage. It was not in a fancy restaurant, nor with diamond rings. It was under the same veranda where she had first slept that cold night. He held her hands, looked into her eyes, and said, "Amaka, will you marry me?" She gasped, her heart soaring. "Yes, yes, I will." Joy flooded her, but so did fear. For in a Kinwale, weddings were not just unions of two hearts. They were battlegrounds of reputation, and many were waiting for hers to collapse. The day of the wedding dawned clear and bright over a Kinwale. Sunlight poured over the town, illuminating the red dirt roads, the bustling market, and the neatly decorated hall where the ceremony was to take place. For once, even the vendors paused to look at the spectacle. Everyone knew Obina was a wealthy man, but to marry a girl who had once slept on his veranda was a story no one could ignore. Amaka woke early, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked at herself in the mirror, a simple wrapper of bright yellow and blue, beads in her hair, hands decorated with henna. She had never felt more beautiful or more terrified. She remembered the nights of hunger, the days of walking barefoot, the cold nights in alleys and under mango trees. And now, here she was, a bride. Obina arrived to escort her to the hall. He looked immaculate, his suit sharp, his demeanor calm but proud. When he saw Amaka, he caught her hands in his, eyes bright with emotion. "You are my queen today," he whispered, "and tomorrow and every day after that." Tears stung her eyes. She nodded, unable to speak, for she knew the weight of those words, the promise, the safety, the love. The wedding hall was crowded with townspeople, family, traders, and friends. Some faces glowed with happiness for the couple, others twisted in envy. Mama Ifioma sat near the front, beaming. Mama Ebra, though, avoided eye contact, muttering under her breath. Chaik, the envious man, watched from the back, his jaw tight, plotting. The ceremony began. The pastor spoke about commitment, faith, and love, his voice echoing across the hall. Amaka felt a hand in hers. It was Obina's. His grip reassured her, grounded her, made her feel the journey they had survived together. When the vows were exchanged, Amaka's voice shook, but she spoke from her heart. I promise to stand by you, through hardship and joy, through poverty and wealth, for as long as we live. Obina's eyes glistened. I promise to love, protect, and honor you, Amaka. You are my life. A cheer went up from the crowd. Yet, not everyone applauded. Chaik's smirk was gone, replaced with a scowl. He had lost. His envy could not break what had been built with sweat, faith, and love. The reception that followed was lively. Drums beat in rhythm with laughter, plates of jollof rice and peppered goat meat were passed around, and children ran to the yard, squealing with delight. Amaka moved among the guests, smiling genuinely, her heart swelling with happiness. But even as joy filled the air, challenges remained. Some relatives whispered that she would never be fully accepted. Some traders in the market muttered that she had climbed too high too fast. And yet, Obina stood firmly beside her, their hands intertwined, unshakable. It was at night, after the reception, when Amaka truly understood the depth of their bond. Sitting on the veranda of their new home, a small, newly built house on the outskirts of town, she turned to Obina. You have changed my life, she said softly. No, he replied, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You changed mine. You reminded me why I work, why I dream. You taught me patience, courage, and love. Her eyes filled with tears once more. I never thought anyone could love me like this. And I never thought anyone could show me what it means to truly trust and care for someone, he said. Amaka, together we are unstoppable. Let them gossip. Let them envy. Our life is ours to build. The days that followed were filled with adjustments. Amaka learned to manage their home, oversee the shop when Obina traveled, and attend to charitable work in the town. She gained respect from neighbors, who began to see her not just as a girl who slept in the shop, but as a woman who had risen with grace, intelligence, and heart. Even Chaik, who once threatened her, eventually bowed under the weight of their growing influence. His business faltered while Obina's thrived. People whispered about divine justice in destiny's hand, but Amaka ignored it all. She focused on building, on learning, on loving. Months later, as they sat together on the veranda, watching the sun set over the dusty streets of Akinwale, Obina said, Do you remember the first night you slept in my shop? Amaka laughed softly, the sound a mixture of nostalgia and disbelief. I thought I would never make it through the night. I thought maybe the world had given up on me. Obina shook his head. The world may have turned its back, but I didn't. And look at us now. Not because of luck, not because of wealth, but because we chose each other every day through everything. Amaka rested her head on his shoulder. I want to make a difference too. I want to help other girls who have nothing. And she did. In the months and years that followed, she became known for her charity, for mentoring girls in the villages, for showing that resilience and courage could change destinies. The girl who once slept on a veranda became a beacon of hope. The town, which had watched with skepticism, slowly transformed its view of her. From whispers of envy and doubt to admiration and respect, Amaka's journey became a story told in markets, at church gatherings, and in homes, a tale of survival, love, and triumph. Obina's fortune grew, not just in wealth, but in legacy. Together, they expanded their businesses, created employment for young men and women in Akinwale, and built a life that was both prosperous and meaningful. Amaka often remembered her early days. The hunger, the cold, the fear of being alone. But those memories no longer brought shame, they brought gratitude. She had seen the depths of despair and the heights of hope. She had been tested, and through love, patience, and courage, she had emerged victorious. And in every corner of the town, from the dusty roads to the busy market, the story lived on. The girl who had once slept in the shop for shelter was now the wife of the richest man in town, not because of chance, but because of her spirit, her resilience, and her unwavering heart. As the stars blinked over Akinwale that night, Amaka whispered a prayer of thanks. She had found love, respect, and a life she had once only dreamed of. And though life would continue to throw challenges her way, she now faced them with courage, alongside the man who had seen her value when the world had turned away. For Amaka, the journey from a street-bound, desperate girl to a respected, beloved wife was not just a story of luck. It was a testament to hope, perseverance, and the transformative power of love.